Good morning, everybody, from beautiful Pattaya. Today is July 7th, 2023, and we are here to talk to you about what's popping in Pattaya. Everything from talking about putting cruise ship terminals in to the new prime minister about to be decided, and all sorts of thievery problems happening in and around here. Stay tuned for that. First, if you haven't done so already, we invite you to like, subscribe, and follow for regular updates right here from Chonburi in Pattaya, Thailand. I'm Adam. Let's go. So, we always like to start with the events that are taking place. This weekend, there's really only one event taking place, and it's not the biggest one, although those participating are heavily anticipating the games this weekend, and that's the Pattaya Beach Sport Games. It's been going on for about a week. It's a variety of sports and events, mostly things like volleyball and beach football, taking place on Pattaya Beach for those of you who just want to relax, have a drink, and watch people play sports. The big events this month are coming up in the next couple weeks, with the biggest one being the Pattaya Marathon on the 22nd and 23rd. Now, in terms of that Pattaya Marathon, the thing to really know, A, that's a weekend, and B, traditionally during the Pattaya Marathon, they actually shut down not only the roads in the morning, obviously, so that getting in and around the city can be a bit of a pain, and we advise that through traffic avoid it, but they usually close down nightlife, at least in the areas the race impacts, especially Walking Street, pretty early that night, as early as 2 or 3 a.m., so that they don't have what they had in prior years, which, comically as it is, what happened in prior years was the runners would all be running, thousands of runners, and then they would let the bars out at the same time as the runners are running. So then you have thousands of runners and thousands of drunks cohabiting together on the streets, and it just didn't work out real well, as I'm sure you can imagine. So keep an eye on that weekend if you're in town. You may see some early nightlife closures, especially in and around the route that they run through, which is right on Walking Street. Now, let's go to politics. I know y'all love politics. We hear it all the time here at the news. Now, on our Thai version of the news, politics gets lots of comments and engagement and people talking. On our English side of the news, many people are like, oh God, please don't talk about politics. But like I said before, it's important to remember that in terms of politics, whoever gets in charge is going to decide a lot of policies that you, and we know we have ties as well, so thank you, but that the majority of our audience is foreign expats and foreign tourists. And they introduce policies that you will find very interesting as well, such as, will cannabis stay legal or not? Such as, could the 90-day check-in that I know all of my expats love so much possibly go away? Could they change visas? All of those are possibilities, and it really depends on the new government and who comes in. So in the last couple days, they finally made a big stride towards that goal. Earlier this week, they chose a Speaker of the House. And actually, the Speaker of the House is pretty neutral. Although he's a member of the coalition that's trying to get into the government, there's two main parties that won the most seats. The Move Forward Party, which won the most, and the second runner-up, Pattaya. And they formed a coalition to hopefully take out the current government, which will likely become the opposition. But they've been fighting over this speaker seat for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so finally they decided to use a third party, a more neutral man known as Wan Nur Mohammed, who comes from the very south of Thailand, is one of Thailand's most prominent Muslims, but he's promised to be impartial, unbiased, and neutral, much like ourselves, in his role. So he has taken the House speakership role, and he's announced that the first vote, there may be more if they can't decide, and that's a strong possibility, for Prime Minister will be on the 13th of July, just a few days away. Next week. So keep an eye on that. That could be big news. We could see a new prime minister, or we could see back to the drawing board for more votes if they can't come to an agreement. Now, next thing we want to talk about is a couple days ago, actually 2 days ago, a Bolt driver was stabbed by a WIN driver. WIN are the orange-vested city motorbike taxi vest folks in town, in an altercation located in Nakua. These altercations, and that's probably putting it lightly, have been ongoing for months between Bolt and the regular motorbike taxi drivers. We see your comments, we hear you. Most people seem to prefer Bolt, mostly because of the price. Although the orange-vested motorbike drivers have brought up a couple of points. So first off, not long ago, the Department of Land Transport made Bolt legal in Thailand. It's legal. It is a legal service. However, they still have to follow all the rules of a taxi service. That means they technically need a yellow public transport plates, a public transport license, public transport insurance, and public transport registration. Now, all of that, of course, costs money and usually needs the company to help. As a result, many of these Bolt drivers, which are people doing it just as part-time work, don't have that. And yes, although some of the orange-vested motorbike guys technically don't have that either, their point is that they do and they're supposed to, and that they also pay city fees, city license fees, and city registration to be taxis in the area. They're pushing the city to take action on Bolt and make Bolt drivers pay the same fees. Also, the city wants Bolt drivers to wear clearly recognizable and identifiable, like Grab, Bolt vests or jackets. Now, Bolt doesn't provide those to their drivers, so that would also be some sort of extra. Meanwhile, tensions have raised, leading to somebody being stabbed, and as of press time was still in critical condition. The city states that they're going to pull together leaders from the local motorbike taxi coalition and try to get in Bolt leaders. But Bolt is not local. It's a big international company. Unlike Grab, they don't have management on the ground, per se. So whether or not they'll be able to pull in management from Bolt to come and have a civil discussion with the management from the orange-vested taxis, that remains up in the air, and I remain a bit skeptical, to be honest. Our next thing that got lots of comments is the Department of Marine in Thailand is looking into creating Thailand's first specific cruise ship terminal. Now, there's places where cruise ships can dock, especially in and around here. You have Lam Chabang and you have Bangkok. But those specific areas where they can dock are really meant to be deep sea ports and commerce ports. They aren't meant just for cruise ships. What they want is one that will be the first one in Thailand to fit 2 gigantic cruise ships at the same time. And can you guess where they've picked? They would like to have it in Pattaya. But that will need the new government, once they're voted in, as stated earlier, to approve that. And whether or not they do is kind of, it's a mystery. We've heard from our readers, many of them fear that it would bring a lot more pollution and would bring tourists that would not really spend any money. Maybe get off, maybe go and take the ferry to Koh Larn for the day and buy a couple snacks, but not actually spend a lot of money at local businesses. Whether or not that's to be true, we'll see. We want to hear what you have to say. Tell us in the comments and let us know. Now, in terms of Pattaya and Nightlife, and the Move Forward Party. The Move Forward Party, which again won the most seats, is actually looking and has proposed to make Pattaya a 24/7 city. This essentially means that they want to get rid of legal closing times in entertainment zones, not residential zones. So those of you who are afraid they'll open a nightclub next to your home in the middle of the eastern Pattaya, that's probably not going to happen. What they do want to do, though, is end legal closing times, especially in areas like Walking Street, LK Metro, entertainment areas. They also want to expand the current legal closing times in entertainment zones in areas like Jomtien, where there's now plenty of bars, but technically they're not supposed to be there because it's not an entertainment zone, and Nakula. These zones have not been changed since 2002. Now, Move Forward Party strongly supports this, although, of course, there is some opposition. Mainly from anti-alcohol groups and groups that fear that by getting rid of closing times, it will cause more accidents, even though, of course, the majority of people out at those hours are actually tourists who do not have their own personal vehicles. But the government says that they're listening to both sides once the new government is in place. Again, we're not getting a new mayor, so a lot of that decision will be up to him as well. They will see whether or not to pursue the idea of Pattaya as a 24/7 city. What do you think? Again, tell us in the comments. Do you think getting rid of legal closing times is a good idea? What are the possible problems that could come in place? We want to know. Last but not least, we have a good story for you. We always like to end on a positive note, in which a 60-year-old Thai man on one of the local beaches in Pattaya was out looking for coins, as he had done for 30 years, using his metal detector, when a tourist who was unidentified, including their nationality, ran up to the man and asked for help, saying that they had dropped their gold bracelet somewhere on the beach and they didn't know where it was. Without even asking for a reward, the man immediately jumped into work, so to speak, and within about 10 minutes found the gold bracelet. This went viral on social media, with many people thanking the man and thanking him for his honesty and for helping a tourist in need. Now, that's it for this week. As always, we wanted to thank you guys for tuning in. We want to make sure that you take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you next week.